Year, Hayley.
Happy New Year, Kelly, and hello and Happy New Year to those of you joining us for episode 16 of A Measure of Marketing, all about the benefits of PR for small businesses with Sanina Kaur. Welcome, Sanina. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a good chat about PR, also other bits and bobs that you work on as well, because I know that you do lots of other different things. So our podcast is very much about supporting small business owners in all of the bits that make up that term marketing. And PR, I would say, is an unknown area, and definitely that point of, should I do it myself? Do I need someone else to do it? The benefits of it. I kind of see PR a little bit and hear people say they need to do it, just like they do Google ads, but they're not quite sure why. They just think that they should add it into the plan. So yeah, we'll have a good conversation about that. Hayley, do you have any PR in your client work?
Yeah, I say PR in the loosest of terms. I don't necessarily have the relationships with journalists or with media production agencies or anything like that, but I do write news pieces and get rid of the cat, and press releases for them. So in the loosest of terms, I use it as a marketing strategy to be able to engage in conversation with journalists, to try and invite them in to build interviews or to build in conversation that way. So yeah, in its loosest of terms.
So Sanina, tell us what you do. Tell us how you started as well. That would be a good little intro.
Oh gosh, how long have you got? So what do I do? So in a nutshell, I do content strategy, content delivery, PR strategy, PR delivery, and I also specialize in writing awards entries. And these three services I've been providing for clients in a freelance capacity for the last 9 years. And these can be small businesses, established organizations, global entities across all sectors. In terms of my journey, I started off life as a journalist when I was 17, straight from school, got a job as a training reporter at my local newspaper, went to journalism school, learnt on the job, spent 6 years in journalism, editing, launched several newspapers, and then decided there was a bigger, wider world out there. And that's when I went to work for local authority corporate comms teams. So first of all, worked for a borough council for a year, and then realised that there was a county council. So I took the step up and went to work for a county council, which should have only been for a year, but I stayed for 6.5 years. So all in all, I worked for local authorities, corporate comms teams for 7.5 years, and then suddenly thought, what do I do? I'm a creative. Let's get back out into the real world. So that's when I went and worked for PR agencies, worked for 3 different PR agencies as a manager, managed all sorts of wonderful accounts, B2B, B2C, but also still keeping my hand in with the writing, because that's what I'm trained to do. I'm a trained journalist. And then I thought, okay, I've worked for 3 different PR agencies. What next? Do I go in-house again? Do I work for another agency, which would have been the 4th? So that's when I went to go and work for an integrated marketing agency. And it was there that I discovered that they had a content creation, content strategy role. So I initially joined in the PR team, moved over into their content team, spent 3.5 years there, and then thought, gosh, I've been working for employers for 18 years. What's next? And that's when I thought, I'll go freelance. And that was 9 years ago. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's such a good experience. So I like how you've dipped into other things as well.
And they were all like, whenever I ever made a career change, it was always a conscious decision to make sure that my last role always linked with the next role, and that obviously all my
flowed.
All my skills were obviously I added to them, but also they were still relevant for my next role. And they've just continued to build and build. So, some people might use me for PR, but actually I can still then have in mind what they could be doing with their PR outputs from a content strategy perspective, and vice versa. And obviously, as we all know, awards form part of PR, but also then they rely on content, because obviously you need to write a good submission. So what I love is the fact that all my services, even though people may not use me for all of them, they all do link in with each other.
Yeah, definitely. And you've got that within you as well, haven't you, to see that broader picture for for different clients too. I think that's so valuable rather than just being quite like siloed in each element.
I agree. And that integration of knowing all those different things fit in and why for that bigger picture, it's really important.
So for small businesses then, why is PR important, or at what point do you feel that PR is important for small businesses, or like how should they be thinking about PR within their marketing plan?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think if possible, all small businesses need to be thinking about PR from the outset, because PR is about getting your name out there. Even if you're an individual, even if you're like you work for a big organization, PR is relevant to all businesses of all sizes, of all offerings and across all sectors. So in order to, you know, if you're investing in PR activity, whether or not, you know, it's small scale or large scale, you are proactively working to get your brand out there in front of your target audience. And hopefully the people, when people hear about you, they're hearing positive things about your company and your abilities because of the power of the PR that you're putting out, which is why, you know, if you're established, and that's great, you can talk about, you know, why people should still continue to use you, your success stories, your strength within the industry. If you're brand new, then obviously you're going to want people to know what you're doing, what your offering is, why people should choose you, the fact that you even exist. And again, PR can help you in that sense, in terms of saying, we're here, we've launched, this is why, you know, this is our offering, and this is why you should, you know, just going to give us a try, and this is how you get in touch with us, and here are the benefits of choosing us over the competitors.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what stage should small businesses begin thinking about it? Is it from launch, or what if they've launched?
Absolutely, from launch. I mean, one of the best PR angles is anything to do with new products, new services, launches, anything like that. And especially if you've got an offering that's offering something slightly different to what already exists within your sector, then that's even more of a PR story. And then if you've got some visuals and good assets to back up that story and really bring it to life. So for example, you've got the good PR photography, you've got the videos, you've got interview clips, you've got case studies, and you can package up that launch story and then share it with the relevant media. So that could be your local media, your regional media. It could even be, you know, specialist trade titles. So for example, if you're a HR professional and you've just started out and you want to obviously position yourself as a thought leader, then you may want to obviously target HR specific magazines.
Yeah. And if they've been going for some time, they've never done PR before, what kind of things should people be looking out for? I guess I've got a client who's been running for 15 years and she's doing amazing work in speech and language therapy. And there's just, you know, when you're listening to a client talk about what they do, it's just absolute like gold, what she's working on and how many people she's helping and the community as well. Like, what type of things can we be picking up on that would be newsworthy stories from a PR angle if they have that launch piece?
I mean, I think the thing with PR is PR exists within all, there are PR potentials within all organizations.
Yeah.
But whenever I go in and work with clients, especially new clients, it takes a little while to sort of educate them in terms of what makes a good story. And then it's only after I've been working with them for a few months and then we started to get the coverage and then they're like, oh, so that's how it works. Because really their job is to do their job, isn't it? So they're not there to think about, oh, that could be a story, or that's a good picture, or, you know, have you thought about putting that on social, or actually that's different to what our competitors are already saying. So I think it's really valuable to have that objective PR perspective, because I or whoever who works in PR will come in and be like, straight away, not only are we trained to see the news stories, but objectively we can see as well, you know, maybe if you combine those two things that are happening, that's a stronger PR story. Sorry, what was your original question? Because I know I've slightly gone off on the tangent, haven't I? I'm just so passionate.
Yeah, no, the bit that you just actually mentioned is around
types of stories
that you're in the business, and if you want to start thinking about PR and you haven't got someone like you or a marketing professional, what do they need to think about, like if they were to do it themselves?
So they need to really be thinking, what is the news? And as I was that's why I went off on a bit of a tangent, because it's difficult people to know what the news is, for they're not there to try and think about what the news is every single day. So for example, straightforward things that make, you know, a press release would be, you know, new appointments, people who've been with you for 20 years, new client wins, new contract wins, successful case studies. Case studies are like gold dust. So if you've worked with a client and it's really like, you know, it's a real, maybe a niche project, or it's a really like exceptional project, and you've got lots of stats and proof points to really bring it together and illustrate it, you pitch that to a trade title. It just, not only does it, case studies are brilliant because they show your expertise, but in a non-salesy way. And obviously, if you've done a good job of producing a case study, then you will have had the input from your client as well. So you'll have a nice quote from them, you'll have the visuals, and it's such a wonderful PR package that actually it's selling to people don't realize they're being sold to. And obviously then just leveraging in terms of case studies are brilliant for then content. You could turn them into blogs. You can obviously upload them to your case study section on your website. You can share them on social. Again, if you've got any charity stories, charity news always makes good news, always gets good pickup, especially within like local regional titles. You might want to provide commentary. So it sounds almost like, Kelly, that your client is extremely good at what she does. It may be that, you know, she could produce some thought leadership. So there could be some legislation, regulation changes within her industry, or there could be something looming on the horizon that she has an opinion about. Or it could be something to do with day-to-day practice that actually she's doing differently, or she's got a unique angle or a viewpoint that could be packaged up into thought leadership and then pitched to trade titles.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, a good list as well. And I guess it's about business owners having that time to step out and really, when they're looking at their marketing or doing a review, to just spend time and sit in that PR mindset as well. And from a content perspective at the same time, like you say, it fits quite seamlessly with the other types of the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, how do you manage it, Hayley? Like, what's your take when you've worked with on PR for clients?
I think, I mean, the way that Sanina said about how utilising case studies and working with a client and kind of positioning them as the news actually is the non-salesy way of raising brand awareness of what you do and why. And I think any news piece that I try and write is all about the audience, or it's about the client. So you maintain that client advocacy that not only sells you in for showing how you've helped solve their problems, but you've elevated that client. So it's not about you. And that actually, for me, I think, if you agree, Sanina, it's that point of the news is about them, that it's their story, and you're kind of using it as a platform, you're kind of secondary to it, and that's sometimes what can make people be more interested in it. So it's that non-salesy approach. But yeah, I just try and look at it and think, okay, well, what is the story? Why would people be interested? And if there isn't a hook or a story, I think, well, this is just a bad use of time, and it's not going to paint you in the best picture. So yeah, I try and look at it and think, okay, what's the why behind it? How will it help other people to know about this news and about this story, and see if there's a bite there? And you don't always get that. I find that difficult. If I can't always find it with a client, I get quite frustrated. And that's where probably your skill as Sanina of being able to find it, dig a little bit deeper, probably, you know, would really shine.
And I think it's also, you know, if you're talking about the strength that PR professionals bring, not only just being able to look at things that are happening within organisations and identifying where the PR points are, but it's about understanding what the agenda is of the target media. So I already know, for example, I've been spending the last few weeks, because it's the start of the year, doing a lot of research on something called forward features for a lot of trade titles. And forward features are essentially editorial calendars that most trade titles produce that tell you what they're going to be some of the focus themes are going to be every single month. Now, if you've got your head screwed on and you're working for a client and you already know what's happening within your organization, and then you happen to know what this forward plan is for the trade titles. So for example, there could be a site safety feature running in April, and then you speak to your client and they're doing something site safety related. And you can also identify an angle that is different and unique and is going to add value.
Yeah.
Pitch it to the journalist, and hopefully if you've married the two correctly with the right insight and intelligence, then you should be able to secure that coverage.
Yeah, and that's that lovely crossover and integration with content strategy and forward mapping and pulling it all together, which I love. And yeah, I think that's, as a marketing professional, The one thing I don't know, which you do, is the why behind the journalist and what they're looking for. And I think that's when you have to really be in it, in that PR world, to really get it.
And that's why it really helped that I remember when I left journalism and went to work for council communications, and everybody was like, oh gosh, you're moving over to the dark side, you know. And I was like, I know, but it's got to be done. And you know, it may have been many moons ago that I was a journalist, but that journalism training is still in me, and it is still what I tap into.
Yeah.
And I know that when I am writing a press release or a feature or whatever it might be for a client, and then I've got to pitch it to the journalist, I can switch and be like, right, so if it's Sanina back on news desk, what's going to pique my interest? Because as you can imagine, journalists get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails every single day. And even, you know, since the pandemic, I've found that it's even more difficult to get their attention, because back in the day, pre-pandemic, you used to be able to email them. If you hadn't heard anything, you'd call up the journalist and be like, hi, you know, is it of interest? Would you like to follow up? Do you need anything else? But invariably, because a lot of people are now working from home, they're not always office based, it's really difficult to be able to do the follow-ups, which is why it's really important that when you do reach out to the journalist, because you really do only get one chance, that it's right and it contains everything they want, even down to like the catchy subject line. They don't have to come back to you and ask for more information. You know, they really don't want you to create extra work for them. It should just be really easy. Not saying we have to spoon feed them, because we don't. But it's about providing them with that complete package.
Yeah, agreed.
I always so when I think about PR, and if you marketing, if you listed out everything that's in marketing as an integrated plan, there was obviously so many different parts to it, and I've probably worked across all of them, and I've worked in PR. It was only for a year. I did it when I was at Boots in number 7. And
didn't know that.
it was good, it was exciting, but there was just a point where I feel like it's such a specialist skill. Just from my own personal opinion, it was that getting into the mindset, it's the understanding the journalist schedule, everything else that they've got going on, that full relationship build. So when I'm thinking about PR now, I'm like, it's just the detail behind it. It's not just the picking out a piece of content and just kind of hoping for the best. It's like there's just so much more behind it.
Yeah, I am very much a firm believer in, I mean, clients will say to me in catch-up meetings, oh, that's a piece of PR, and I'll be like, it probably isn't right now, but if we could do X, Y, and Z, or if we could revisit this project in like maybe 6 months' time, then potentially it could be. That's happened a lot over the years. And I think for me, and I don't realize I do it until I have chats like this with people, I think I take it for granted that I do PR. And I think it's because, obviously, as I said, like I've come to it from a journalism perspective, which is obviously valuable because I can flip and see what the journalists want. But then I guess I've been doing it for like 20 years now. And for me, it's sort of like second nature. But I could understand how if you're a small business and you're starting out, and obviously you want to, you know, let people know that you exist and you want people to use your products and services, you've got to use PR, you know, and you've got your marketing strategy and whatnot. How does it fit? How does it work? And I can understand how people might feel overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that social media and how public we are, just in general, do you think people mix social media with PR and it's blurred the line?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's undoubtedly shaped, you know, what was traditional PR is now digital PR, which then obviously moves into like influencer stuff. Obviously, as I know, anything you produce PR wise can obviously be turned into content, and then the content can then be used for social. So it all feeds into itself. And I think it will continue to evolve. It's inevitable. It's just about keeping tabs on it, really. And just making sure, just because something new and shiny has come out, you don't have to necessarily use it. Think back to, where is my target audience going to be? Where am I going to most be, you know, where am I going to find them? Where do they hang out? Just because there are like 15 social media channels does not mean you have to be on every single one.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly, yeah.
Do you think that because we use social media, though, that people think that that PR is easy, like that social media is almost like they see it as a PR channel rather than actually what PR is as its traditional form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think it's about looking at PR almost like there's a divide, isn't there? So there's the traditional PR, which I think there's still a place for it. It's still, you know, it's still delivered, it's still done, it still delivers the results for people. But then also, in addition to this, you've then got the whole social side of things as well, which is perfectly okay to do too, you know, and it should be encouraged. And obviously you can do the traditional PR and the social element side by side as well. And if anything, that should be recommended.
I am going off on a tangent on these questions, by the way. So
I hope I can answer them.
There'll be nothing different than like the PR conversation that we had originally planned, so don't worry. Some cost-effective PR strategies that small businesses can implement. Is there anything that they could start themselves, or when is the right point to bring someone in? What should they be looking for to be like trigger that, okay, we need a professional here?
I would say that all small businesses can probably have a go at doing their own PR. All they really need to do is produce something called a press release, which is essentially a Word document, which has got your branding on, which clearly has a headline, which has maybe 5 to 6 paragraphs of your news story. Make sure you include a quote from somebody, and then obviously some photography or other relevant assets. And you can share that. You can happily share that with your local regional media. If you want to go for trade media, go for trade media. And that should hopefully get pickups. There's no reason why companies can't have a go at doing PR themselves. And you can obviously focus on all sorts of things. So the new appointments, the new client wins, the contract wins, you know, any other company news that's worth celebrating and promoting, any partnerships, any client, you know, any successes. That was a good starting point. In terms of when you actually bring a professional in, I would recommend that you do that if you find that you don't know where to start with PR. You know, you want to do it, but actually you don't have the resources, you haven't got the time, you're not really a writer, gosh, you haven't got time to think about what the news stories are within the organization, but you see the value in it. Or if you're having a go at doing it yourself and you know what, it's just not getting pick up, it's, you know, no stories are being run, nobody gets back to you, it goes into the ether, and you're like, oh, why am I bothering?
Yeah. And then awards, I'm just really interested in this side of it as well. Does the PR and awards submissions are obviously going to interlink, aren't they? I guess for me, there's a bit around that very much forward thinking and planning of your overall marketing where PR slotted in, and then also from an award perspective, knowing what's coming up, as well as your newsworthy stories, and also that layer of what the journalists are doing at the same time. Like that's how I'm kind of visualizing somebody's marketing plan of all those elements.
Yes. So I guess the awards, I mean, I've been writing awards for maybe 20 years, and I was mainly when I used to work for PR agencies, I used to do a lot of award entries for clients. And then I've done quite a few as a freelancer. And then it was only last year I suddenly thought, I've written a lot of awards here for lots of different people, and they've all either like won or they've been shortlisted. Like this is quite a valuable service. And the pain points are, I took a look back in terms of why did people come to us? Why do they need to outsource their awards? Because they didn't have the objective viewpoint. They were too close to things.
Yeah.
They didn't have the time to, you know, they didn't have the resources. There were, you know, people weren't really writers, or they didn't have the time to collect all the information. And then I actually thought, well, this obviously touches on my PR background, obviously my content services. And as you've said just now at the start of the question, obviously PR. Because if you win an award, if you've been shortlisted, you'll always be known as an award winner, or you'll always be known as being obviously good at what you do because you've been shortlisted. So that's when I suddenly thought, actually, let's launch the awards clinic. Let's show people that if they desperately do want to win an award, which they should if they're doing good stuff, that there is to help them to enable to do that. But what I would recommend is it's very much about forward planning. So it's all very well saying, oh, we want to enter X award in the summer. Have you got the projects and the results in place that are award worthy? If you haven't, then plan for the next year.
Yeah.
And I know it's another year and you think, oh, I want to win it now. My competitors are probably going to win this summer and I wanted to have won it. I always say to clients, there's no point just submitting an award for the sake of submitting an award and hoping for the best. If you submit an award and you put all that time and effort into doing it, you want it to win.
Yeah.
And in order to win, you need to evidence the criteria. And to evidence the criteria, you need to identify the right projects and make sure that you have all of the information. So it doesn't hurt to hold back. Do your research and do a bit of forward planning. And then you can speak to people from across the organisation in terms of what is needed to produce a real quality submission.
Yeah, because they're big, like some of them are big, aren't they?
And you have to pay, you have to pay hundreds for your submission. So you want to make sure you get it right.
Yeah, definitely. Have you done any awards, Hayley? You worked on?
When I was employed as a marketer, yes, but having gone self-employed, the companies that I work with tend to be quite small, and it's the cost basis. And I'm very much the same as Sanina, that if you haven't got anything worth shouting about, you haven't got the data, you haven't got the evidence, you can't hit that criteria, it's a bad use of time and budget at this point to enter for that award. And then when they see how, I think the initial outlay of submitting an award, you can kind of swallow, but then it's, okay, you have to now turn up and it's thousands for a table. I think that's the bit that sort of puts them off. So it's finding that balance that, exactly as Sanina says, if you've got something worth sharing and it hits everything and you've got a really strong chance of getting shortlisted, then go for it. But otherwise, it's not something that my clients go, we need help with, or we want to do this. And if they do, then they haven't really got it at this stage in the time that I work with them, to be able to submit anything. So
I've done
that actually, oh, sorry, what are you going to say? I was going to say was, over the last 12 months, I've also worked hard on actually flipping it. So as I used to be a journalist and then obviously moved over to PR, seeing the other side, I've actually been doing some awards judging as well. And some clients come to me and they think, oh, it's almost about the numbers. So if we submit X amount of entries, then we're definitely going to win and we're going to get shortlisted. And it just doesn't work that way. When you're in industry, when you're a judge, it's not, oh, so-and-so submitted 5, so they at least deserve a shortlist, It is literally about looking at the hard facts that are in front of you in black and white and saying, there's the criteria, there's the submission. Does it add up? Does it stack up? Is whatever is needing to be required, is that being evidenced or not? How does that compare to the other entries as well that have been submitted? But some people mistakenly think, oh, if we submit enough, then we're definitely going to win, and it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. It's almost like being academic, isn't it? When you're behind the scenes of the award submissions. Again, it's similar to journalism in the sense of you need to know what their priority is and make it easy for them, the same as the people that are reviewing your award submission. It has to be as simple as possible for them.
Like going for a job, you've got to tick all those boxes to get to an interview.
That is literally what I was just about to say. So I've always compared writing submissions with writing like a public sector job vacancy application form. You need to evidence what is in the spec, the person spec, the job spec within your application form. So you might want to say something in a certain way, but you need to say it so it evidences the criteria.
Yeah, I've done some award submissions as well, and we would create whole new like landing pages. There'd be video content, there'd be so much work behind it, and without that forward planning and really knowing why you're going for that particular award as well, that's either PR worthy eventually, or is going to stack up against your competitors, or it's just the right thing to do really within the industry and for your business. You have to really add it to the plan and have almost like a project plan around it as well. That's how we worked before. And I think sometimes sometimes I think like PR and awards, and even sometimes just campaign work in marketing, that forward planning isn't there. and then it makes it feel very busy and very scattered and without that full purpose behind it, which eventually might lead to it failing and not working. So yeah, the planning bit is definitely a thing, I think.
I have a question that wasn't necessarily one lined up, so I appreciate this is a curveball, which I didn't intend to do at all. But when we were talking about how small businesses get started with PR and what they can do for themselves, what's your experience, Sanina, of clients or even your own dabbling of generative AI tools and using them to kind of get ahead in PR? Because I've mixed emotions with it, as I've been very vocal on this podcast and in blogs that I've written and on other people's podcasts, in that I think there is a place for Gen AI tools, but there's also a place for human and creativity and that need for that strategic kind of direction with it. So I'm just interested in whether or not you've come across, or whether you even, I suppose, enable your clients to utilize Gen AI tools to kind of get started.
Oh, that's a good question. It's a very good topical question as well. I think that in my experience, in terms of my current clients and historic clients, they haven't felt the need or desire to want to use generative AI in any way. So they have purely come to me because they, have come to me for my PR expertise, content expertise, whatever that might be. However, I am obviously not aware of the fact that these tools exist and clients are using them. And actually, especially people, if you've just started out and you don't really have a budget, then of course they're going to use these tools. I mean, why wouldn't you? I would say to them, absolutely, if that's what you want to try, hopefully you might, get the best results from them. It might be a bit weird in terms of using them for producing, PR pieces, when actually PR is about your own achievements, your own company. So it might be a bit strange there in terms of it. Obviously, for businesses that are just started out, you would only want them to be doing the very basic PR output. So for example, the appointments, then the client wins, all that sort of thing. So you probably wouldn't even need generative AI. I know there's a place for it. I have dabbled a little bit in terms of research, looking to see what's out there in a wider realm. However, I have done a bit of cross-checking, and it's not really it's quite generic, which for me just isn't going to work. But I think I'd be extremely ignorant not to have a little dabble, not to see what's there. I have actually done a training as well with pro copywriters, AI for copywriters, and was quite relieved that actually I don't think I have anything to worry about just yet.
No,
but I think it's really important that us professionals are aware of what's happening, and the fact that companies are using these tools, and that's absolutely fine. I would say go ahead and use them, and I hope you have success. I have found that clients that tend to use them is because they're trying to cut budgets, which is a bit of a shame really, because then I don't think that means they really value this, what you do. So in a way that's almost fine, because I'd rather work with clients that do value what I do. So
I get that.
I'm not against it. I know there's a place for it. I don't have that much interaction with it at the moment. Maybe it will change, as the years go on, and more organizations, it's the norm, and they want to use it to some degree, fine. I'll still find my place to be able to add value, human-centric, relevant, news angles and stories and content that, do truly resonate with people.
I get all of that, and I can relate to everything you've said. So it's just find it interesting asking other professionals who are doing similar things to Kelly and I as to what's your experience. Yeah, it's useful.
Wow, thank you so much for your time and answering.
No problem.
It was so I love speaking to specialists in certain areas. It just changes your perspective on things as well. It's just really helpful when we're working with small business owners across lots of different marketing topics to pause at certain points and go to specialists in certain areas, and make them feel that they know that there's people out there that can definitely help them and get them success in spaces that make them feel very overwhelmed as well. So thank you very much. So
no problem.
People can find you, so SK Copyco. On LinkedIn, probably the best
Yes.
place for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also on Instagram as well.
Instagram, amazing. And I guess anyone that's listening or watching, comment below wherever you are, ask questions. We'll be sharing this across LinkedIn, so if you see it there, ask Sanina specific questions, and yeah, we can always do another follow-up episode later on down the line.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you, Sanina.
Thank you both.
Yeah, speak to you soon.
All right, take care. Bye now.
Bye. Bye.